Look at this time lapse of a typical school hallway after a break. Students are moving from a week of unstructured sleep and shifting peer groups straight into a highly demanding academic environment. It is a jarring physiological shift for their nervous systems. You might expect the hardest part of that transition to be Monday morning, but the behavioral fallout from that shift usually peaks on day 3, catching unprepared staff completely off guard. To handle this, we use a standardized 4-step post-break re-entry protocol. It is specifically designed to catch the physiological markers of stress before they escalate. By implementing these 4 steps, you take the post-break chaos and turn it into a manageable, measurable operational process. Step 1 focuses on the classroom environment. For the first 72 hours back in the building, you need to prioritize rebuilding routine over pushing the academic pace. This flowchart, labeled Phase 1 Re-entry Protocol, tracks how a student's cognitive load drops as their schedule stabilizes. When a student is dysregulated, knowing exactly what comes next acts as a direct neurological intervention. Predictability is the treatment. Step 2 requires clear communication. Staff need to verbally acknowledge the difficulty of the re-entry period out loud to their students. When students struggle to match the sudden speed of the classroom, they often internalize it as a personal failure. Naming the transition directly removes the shame of finding the week difficult. These 2 environmental adjustments lower the baseline anxiety across the entire building. With the general stress level reduced, the students who are genuinely at risk become much easier to spot. Step 3 shifts your staff from passive observation to active symptom tracking. This dashboard highlights the critical window, days 1, 2, and 3 after a break. We start by looking for physical indicators. Watch for an uptick in somatic symptoms, specifically students visiting the clinic for sudden stomach aches with no clear medical cause. Next, track the behavioral indicators. This usually starts as uncharacteristic morning tardiness, which then escalates into full-day absences as the week goes on. Finally, monitor the academic load. A sudden, stacked accumulation of missing assignments within that specific 72-hour window is a clear flag. This side-by-side visualization shows exactly what we are looking for. One hard morning is an ordinary single green data point, but when you see a rising red trend line spanning 3 consecutive days, that pattern requires an immediate response. Here is where the protocol can fail. School staff must not attempt to formulate a medical or psychological diagnosis based on what they are seeing. Only a licensed clinician can do that. The school's role is strictly data collection and pattern recognition. Identifying the 3-day trend serves purely as the trigger mechanism to bring in professional clinical support. That brings us to step 4, executing a warm handoff, the exact moment you verify a 3-day symptom pattern. When a counselor flags a student, that student should meet a therapist, not a waiting list. Staff use the MentalSpace school portal to make a direct clinical connection immediately. Continuity of care is built into this process. The student is routed to the exact same dedicated therapist team used throughout the entire school year, preventing the trauma of re-explaining their situation to a stranger. The intervention happens exactly when your staff spots the issue. Same-day teletherapy access remains open, specifically to handle these difficult re-entry weeks. This support is financially viable for your district's families. Care is $0 for Medicaid patients, and the platform accepts major private providers like Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna, and Aetna. The entire handoff process is fully compliant with HIPAA and FERPA regulations, and it supports districts facing the July 2026 deadline for HB 268 compliance. Executing a warm handoff bridges the gap between educational observation and clinical care. The student gets immediate help, and your staff is freed from carrying diagnostic liabilities. Standardizing this protocol across a district drives macro-level impact. Attendance improves 89%. Student anxiety drops 92%, and family satisfaction reaches 85%. This 92% reduction in anxiety correlates directly to a massive drop in unnecessary clinic visits and missing assignments. The final administrative action is to secure this teletherapy infrastructure for your district before the next scheduled school break occurs. Integrating routine predictability with immediate clinical access turns your school's most vulnerable weeks into periods of guaranteed stability and support.